Hi friends, today we are going to make the Magnolia table braised ribs. Now she uses beef ribs in her recipe and I use pork ribs. It's whatever. I have made it with beef ribs. It's still good with pork ribs. That's what I had. I used what I have. I also did not have wine. I used beef broth. It says in the recipe you can use beef broth. I used my homemade beef broth. It was so good. I really hope you like this recipe. Check it out. Okay, to get started, we're gonna take these adorable little carrots that I pulled out of my garden and just chop the tops off. I am not gonna peel them. They are gonna cook down into the broth and they are just so cute. Look at that one, it's a little weird. These add incredible flavor. Here I am chopping up 1/2 of a candy onion. These are incredibly large and really sweet. They are so good in salads, especially raw, but I already had this one cut up, so I did not want to waste it, and I cut up a couple of those carrots as well. They were a little bit too big. And now I am chopping up this celery. I don't chop the celery too small because nobody in my family likes it, so I just pick it out. I just put it in for flavor. Now I'm adding some avocado oil to my Dutch oven, and that Dutch oven is so loved. Look at that bottom. If anybody has any tips of how to get that nice and clean, let me know. I'm adding some salt to my ribs. And then I'm just gonna sear them in my Dutch oven just to the outsides or just a little bit cooked. They're not even gonna get brown, just cooked a little bit. You just wanna create a little bit of a crust on the outside of them. Now I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that oil. And then I'm gonna add these veggies. I'm just gonna stir them around. They don't really need to be caramelized or anything. This is gonna cook for 5 whole hours, so you do not need to caramelize them. They will get nice and soft in the braising. Here I just added 1 tablespoon of the minced garlic that you keep in the refrigerator and just stirred it all around. I didn't have any garlic cloves today, so I just substituted that. Okay, here I am adding a teaspoon of thyme, and you don't want to omit this because I have before and it adds such good flavor. It literally changes the flavor profile of the dish. Then I added about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm just stirring this all around. I turned the heat up a little bit so it could get cooking. Now I'm just gonna add these ribs over top all of these vegetables, and you just lay them on a nice even layer. It doesn't really matter. It's all gonna cook together anyway. There's no rhyme or reason. Now I'm adding 4 cups of my homemade bone broth. I can do a video on this if there is interest. It's a little bit harder than the chicken bone broth, but it's delicious and worth it. Now I'm just gonna put a lid on, bring that up to a boil, make sure that's on high. Now I'm just pressing down those ribs, making sure they're staying under the liquid. I'm gonna go ahead and grind up some fresh ground pepper over the top because I forgot to before. I'm gonna stir that all around and as you can see, it is almost to a rolling boil. After that gets up to a boil, you're just gonna reduce it down to low, put that lid back on, and then simmer it for 3 to 5 hours. Okay, now I'm just straining off some of this liquid. It's been about 3.5 hours. And I'd say I took about 3 cups of liquid off of that. I'm putting it in a saucepan to make a gravy. Now I dump those leftovers back in the big pot. I turn that liquid on high, and now I'm stirring it. Now I have 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with a cup of water, and I'm just gonna stir this in to my broth. It's not gonna make a real thick gravy. You can always add more cornstarch to your water, but we like the gravy to be a little bit thin. So I'm just adding this in, stirring as I go. And as it thickens, I can tell if I want it to be thicker, I'll add more. If I don't want it to be any thicker, I can just stop where I'm at. Cornstarch is very forgiving that way. Now I'm turning that off because it came to a boil, and I'm tasting it, and as you can see, it's delicious. And now we're ready to serve. And this is our finished plate. It's delicious and everybody loved it. There you have it. It's pretty simple to make. It just takes a long time. The cooking time is what takes the most. The prep work is easy. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.